Chapter 53, The Epilogues. Oh, you can see Dorrit walking there in the back of the church. Dorrit. She doesn't want to play. Anyway, chapter 53, The Epilogues. Everyone cheered loudly. "It's not quite the end," said Asmax. "More," came the loud reply. "Who wants to read the epilogues?" called Angel. "Happy to continue," said Asmax. "Nope," shouted Miguel. "My turn. I am, after all, one of the Magic Time Pirates, and I think that's what Toll and Jax called their story." "We did," shouted Toll and Jax together, and then said, "Snap." "Right," said Miguel. "Here goes. Epilogue 1. After the longest sleep, full of the best, most mesmerising dreams, everyone awoke to the sound of birds bustling, bees buzzing, and the waves calling. As everybody ate breakfast in the sun, Nell read the news on the magic screen Bill had given her for Christmas. The screen was nothing more than thin air, and it was the best toy Nell had ever had. "I have good news and bad news," said Nell. "No," said Petrel. "What's the bad news?" Her face looked so anxious that Nell gave her a hug. "It's not that bad," said Nell. "It's pretty bad," said Bill. Nell frowned at him. "Well, the good news is that Dragolin has its rightful Prime Minister back," she said. "Marvella Ardern." "Marvella?" asked Solo. "Didn't she disappear ages ago? Thought to be drowned?" "She did," said Nell. "But she'd also been minimised and locked away by Vancro and the thieves inside one of the books in the library." Everyone stared at Nell. "They found her last night," said Bill. "Is she a good person?" asked Toll, looking worried. "Oh, better than good," said Nell. "She's magnificent. And mark my word, she'll stop all this shaming of the people from the Island of Flames, and she'll help bring peace back to the Island of Flames as well." Squid's eyes widened and she moved closer to her mother. "What a relief," said Pallas. "With the war on the Island of Flames, our people get enough cruelty without coming here for more." "And the bad news?" asked Petrel. Nell looked sad. "What Halo told us last night is true," said Nell. "Before Marvella was reinstated, Vancro Snark did reduce the sentence given by Miguel to the thieves, and he allowed them to spend it in another land." "After all they did to us?" asked Petrel, looking savage. "Yes," said Nell. "Man," said Solo, "that's so unfair." Toll nodded. They caused so many people to be reduced to the size of tiny beads," he said, "and become imprisoned inside virtual worlds." "Their name suits them," said Dodger's dad. "The thieves. They steal time from people. They steal their lives." "They really are thieves," agreed Nell. "Worse," said Pallas. "A thief knows that they're stealing, and what they take can usually be given back. These people plunder from the very soul of the people they attack." "Stealing time is like taking someone's life," said Storm. "I can never go back and see Squid grow from being 2 to 4 years old again." "Nor me," said Pallas, her eyes filling with tears. Everyone looked down. "At least they've left Dragolin," said Bill. "They've gone to Van Diemen's Island." Pallas scoffed. "That used to be a prison island," she said. "Pity it isn't one still." Nell nodded. "But the poor people there," she said, "they won't know how evil the thieves are." "Won't someone tell them?" asked Petrel. "Probably not," said Solo. "Definitely not," added Bill. "That's how it works." "That's awful," said Petrel. "They'll probably start up another school." "But," said Escher, "I've seen the future, and I have to say there are some good things there." Jax hugged Escher. You must tell us all about it. Nell stood up. Oh, I just need to change that bit. So I've just gone back a little bit. Jax hugged Escher. You must tell us all about it. Can't, said Escher. Not yet, anyway. Jax was about to argue when Nell stood up. Quick, she said. The new Prime Minister's about to speak. Nell spun her magic screen around so that everyone could see. Let's hear what she has to say. They're broadcasting live. Everyone watched as Marvella appeared. She was tall and dressed in a wonderful cape made from flax and feathers. It was edged in gold threads, and the newly rescued Prime Minister was holding a spear made from solid gold. This is a symbolic spear, she said. It represents kindness and strength. Only the weak give way to hatred against others, only against those who are different. Our country is one big home, and it's home to everyone who comes to it. There was loud cheering from the crowd that had gathered to see her standing on the gigantic cliffs that surrounded Parliament House on Dragolan. Marvella held her golden spear high above her head with both hands and cried out in a language she had learned as a child. What she spoke was from the language of the people. What she spoke was the language of the people from the Island of Flames. Petrel's eyes widened and she turned to grin at her parents. The ancient language, she said. Pallas nodded at her daughter. Marvella continued to speak. My grandparents moved to Dragolan from the Island of Flames when my mother was 2 years old, and my mother spent a long time in prison. The crowd booed. Marvella nodded. My mother was not allowed to live with her parents, she said. Her voice sounded sad as she added, and eventually her father, my grandfather, died of a broken heart. The crowd was silent. But my mother's mother survived, said Marvella, and when my mother was 4 years old, she was allowed to live with her mother. She was allowed to live again with her mother in a tiny hut. I think I'll say she was allowed to live again with her mother. They were given a tiny hut. The crowd remained silent. We thought this kind of hatred would never happen again on Dragolan, said Marvella, but Vancro Snark and his supporters have caused great cruelty over the past decade. The crowd booed. But today we celebrate kindness, shouted Marvella, raising her spear high above her head. The strength that brings kindness is wild and unruly. It needs us to help it take root like a gigantic forest of bull kelp in our oceans of compassion and fairness. Everyone cheered loudly. Work with me, she continued. We will make it happen. After a massive bout of applause, Marvella lowered her spear. No more will Dragolan turn away people who come to its shores seeking safety, she said. No more will we seek to lessen their status, shame them, minimise their needs, or make them feel like they are small. Never again. Never again, shouted the crowd, and then they cheered and clapped loudly. On the deck of the shack at the Bay of Magic Sea Dragons, overlooking the sparkling water on that loveliest of days, there were shouts of joy and a lot of hugging. After a long while, the crowd stared at Marvella. Okay, I think I just need to change that. So I'm just going to go back and say, never again, shouted the crowd, and then they all cheered and clapped loudly. After a long while, the crowd stared at Marvella as she raised her golden spear again. It shone in the sunshine as she said, to everyone who has come to us from the Island of Flames or for anywhere that is unsafe or suffering, I am here to tell you that forevermore on the Island of Dragolan you are most welcome. On the deck of the shack at the Bay of Magic Sea Dragons, overlooking the sparkling water on that loveliest of days, there were shouts of joy and a lot of hugging. And for the second epilogue, said Miguel, I think it's time for the wonderful Jaxophone Matrix. Jax grinned, jumping up to take the conch shell. I'd be honoured, she said. Epilogue 2. To Told You, from Jack's Matrix, when, just after we arrived home after listening to Marvella the Magnificent, where, a softly snowing day in the land of ice and fire, about our book. Hi Toll and everyone on Dragolan. So you've all read our new book now, the one Toll and I wrote. The Magic Time Pirates, or at least that's what Toll tells me. He also says that no one really hates it and that Nell isn't bothered about the secret stuff I revealed about pass-outs and stuff. So, yay. On the way home, we visited the Islands of Time. They are amazing. I so hope we can all go there one day. They have the best university. It's called Marescimar. They take students as young as 2 years old, and some of the students and professors are tens of thousands of years old. I love it. I badly hope to study there really soon. Anyway, I'm glad you all like our book. Has anyone been sucked into it yet? I mean, really sucked into it, like Nell, Toll, and I were with the Silver Training Manual. What a wild adventure that would be, all over again, and maybe even better than in real life. I'd want to hang out with Godot and the Princess of the Magic Sea Dragons most, and you'd never ever find me with the thieves in Miguel's toilets. At least I hope not. I want to write another book, maybe with you this time, Petrel. Go Petrelium. For now, keep on imagining that everything is possible. Lots of lava, Jax. The end, shouted Jax.